to Block Party. I'm your host, Mike Wall. Thank you for watching. If you're enjoying, hit that subscribe button on our Process to Perform channel on YouTube. You can find me, Mike Wall68, on Twitter and TikTok. Process to Perform Instagram. We'll be distributing not only this show, but obviously some clips off this show, particularly with some of the guys we're going to be in the NFL draft this year that we're excited to share with you today. Listen, we're going to talk about off-the-ball linebackers. Honestly, for when I was playing, one of my favorite and arguably one of the more, if not the most important position on defense, just what they brought from a demeanor and leadership standpoint. Obviously, production has fallen by the wayside when we talk about defensive ends and cornerbacks being kind of the staples that you have to get right on the defensive side of the ball. We were talking about the draft, but for my money, the way that and follow me here because this is going to be a sea change. I think the way a lot of people think about football. When you look at the last couple years, or maybe the last 10 years in the National Football League, the 4-2 defense, the nickel defense has become prominent. Fullbacks went away for a long time, and linebackers went from these 250-pound, 255, 60-pound, Jeremiah Trotter-like dudes that could just fill lanes, stop the run, and they were okay in the passing game too. We got to have these 230-pound, 35-pound linebackers that can run sideline to sideline, that just the play speed super important. But what's happened in the last couple of years, you see it from the San Francisco 49ers, you see it from the Baltimore Ravens, but you also see it as a philosophy of the way that offense and defenses are playing. We're going to stick on defense. A lot of guys are going to stick to a 4-2, 6 in the box defense and just allow offenses, good offensive lines, to run one-on-one blocks with their linebackers and just get downhill. And what we're seeing now is you're going to be able to move the ball at a much more efficient rate if you don't have linebackers that can shed blocks, can make tackles in the box. The guys that are getting pushed off, pushed back, and making tackles 9 yards downfield, you can find a lot of those guys that are a little bit light in the trousers, like light in the ass, right? Like 230 pounds, 235 pounds. Man, they run like the wind, but they can't take on a guard. They can't take on a tackle. They can't take on a center. If you put a fullback or an F-back in the game, they can't take those guys on, stop them in the hole, and make plays. So the guys that are unique are, for me, the players that still can run, and let's dispel another thing right now. If you run a 4.6, you're fast. You're a fast human being. A 4.6 is fast. A 4.5 is faster. A 4.4 is blinding speed. But with the way you think about 40s now and the coaching they get and the start and the way that they take tenths of the second off the start and this and that, dude, if you're running a 4.6, if you're a 6'5", 6'4", 240-pound, 250, 260-pound guy, and you're running a 4.6, you're fast. You're a fast athlete. And if you can get sideline to sideline, it's at the linebacker position, your speed of thought, your play speed is determined by how fast you process information. So you can make up for whatever deficiencies you have largely in some respects because your speed of thought, your play recognition, your processing is so fast. So I'm going to go through 3 guys today. We're going to first look at the Iowa All-American Dick Butkus award-winning linebacker, Jack Campbell, who I think processes better than anybody I've seen, not only in this draft, but in the last couple of drafts. And then we're going to look at Trenton Simpson, and we're going to look at Noah Sewell, 2 other guys that are highly touted. Trenton Simpson, a lot of guys are looking at the kid from Clemson, Trenton Simpson. He's 6'2", 235 pounds, runs a 4.43. They're just going like, oh my goodness, this guy can do it all. I don't see it that way. I mean, he's a great prospect, but I'll show you on tape. There's just things that, as an offensive lineman, when I'm thinking about how I'm going to attack a defense, like there are guys that I don't want to mess with. The Patrick Willises of the world, the Luke Kuechly's of the world. There's those kind of guys, and then there's the kind of guys where, listen, I don't care if you can run a 4.4, you can die. If you're 230 pounds, I know where I'm running the football because most of those guys can't get off. They get stuck on blocks. So let's take a look at this. And again, there's so much that goes into being a linebacker. I think that's what I love about the position. You got to be able to do it all. A lot of these guys you'll see, Noah Sewell in particular, and Trenton Simpson, they play close to the line of scrimmage a lot. Their defenses are asking them to do that. Is that going to translate as well in the National Football League? Probably not, but that's not their fault, right? This is all stuff they're going to have to get coached on as we move forward. But let's start by looking at this kid. He's 6'5", 249 pounds, ran a 4.65 40, His play speed is faster than that. He does not have a problem tackling running backs in space. I love the way this kid diagnoses. I love the way this kid plays in the box. When he understands who's trying to block him, he attacks the blocker. He becomes the attacker. He initiates contact. He's been well coached on how to stack and shed, and get off blocks and make tackles. It stood out. I watched this entire Ohio State game, and it just pops out. Number 31 on your screen. They're running a little stunt here, so he's backside, but you just see the size of him. He's 6'5", 250. That's Brian Urlacher, 6'5", 250 pounds. Okay, I'm not saying it runs like Urlacher. Urlacher was a freak. Maybe Urlacher wasn't quite 6'5". This is a big human. He can put more weight on. Kid's a basketball player in high school. He's an academic All-American. I think he won the, let's see what it's called. He won the Campbell Award, the Academic Heisman Award. So bright, can process quickly, super smart, football junkie, knows how to tackle. Maybe most importantly, you should go without saying, playing the linebacker position. The kid can tackle, man. He can just flat out tackle. You see him attack. You see the hips engage when he attacks guards. He can stack and shed with the best of them. He can shed off to the side. He easily gets rid of these guys. You see the coming downhill, just puts the tackle right on his backside when he's filling his lane. You just don't see this that much anymore in the National Football League. When I was coming into the game, Bernardo Harris, Jeremiah, these guys, when they came downhill, Levon Kirkland, man, when they're coming, you better brace up. You better set your jaw. You're going to get knocked flat on your backside. This guy is throwback in that sense. He plays it. This is a physical football game. He plays it in a physical manner. He attacks blockers. I love the way that he attacks blockers. It's something that if you follow us on the On My Block podcast with Mon Green and myself, we brought this up over and over last year because the Packers rookie, who is going to be a great player, doesn't do a great job of taking on blocks, and it costs you, I don't know, 40 yards a game as far as not being, making contact further down the field than you have to. Reads holes, has no problem finding the running back, finding him, diagnosing the play, and being able to close. He has no problem doing that, despite his 4'6'5". Some people are going to say, oh, he's not the most athletic guy at 4'6'5". Listen, 6'5", 250, 4'6'5". I'll take it all day long. There'll be a couple plays we'll show on here where, and I think a lot of this has to do with the RPO offense in college, but the way that all of these guys kind of diagnose plays, there's times where they hesitate on certain things because there's just so much cross motion, and that's just going to make it take more time and development and good coaching. But generally speaking, this guy can diagnose with the best of them. Playing the backside here, and you see he's just got to shoot this gap. He can't let that tight end fill up the space. Does a great job of shooting, forcing that guy to bounce backside where they have help. One thing you see with all these players, this guy included, is they are not afraid to put in man-on-man with their tight end. I know this isn't Travis Kelce, right? But this is Ohio State. This is big-time football. They're not afraid to put him in man-to-man in situations, have him man up for anywhere on the field that he needs to go. You see the punch and extend here. He does such a good, both these offensive tackles are going to go first round. He does such a good job on both these guys of stacking, shedding, punch and extend, find the ball, and continuing to remove the blocker from his premise. Quarterback checks. He checks right to a dog. Shows it really, really late, comes around. This is a holding call. He goes through the blocker. That's the other thing I love about it. He's not trying to be cute about it. He's got a power rip move. This is Iowa staple. This is how defensive ends rush. We got power rip moves. We're not trying to be cute about stuff. We're going to take our space. We're going to force you to hold us. This is textbook what you want to do. You want the offensive lineman to have to let you go or hold you. In this case, I don't know if they got this call, but he is being held around the throat because he gets close to the body. He uses a rip move. He pulls the elbow up and underneath the armpit of the offensive lineman, forcing him to open up. He has no choice but to hold. Great job here. Just love the physicality of the way he's trying to play the game. So he bounces, and this is what you're very simply, like, can you tackle an open space? No problem for him to hawk this guy down. See the physicality as he rips off of the left tackle again. The left tackle is a good player, but listen, this guy plays with leverage. He's huge, 6'5". That's like I think Mike Vrabel was like 6'5", 250. I mean, these are big dudes, right? And so now you're able to play that inside linebacker position with the lateral quickness and the speed that you have. This is a very potent combination. What I love about this guy is his ability. He always stays square. He very, very rarely gets turned. He stays square to the line of scrimmage, makes his body huge, creates a great surface for him to be able to make tackles. But he's also not giving the running back options. He's not he's not allowing the running back to dictate the terms of confrontation. I think this is one pick from CJ Stroud. I think it's more of a bad pass by Stroud, but a nice athletic play from an athletic linebacker. See, you see the punch and extend again. He just does a great job. And just, why do I point this play out? Because it might be a nondescript for everybody else. Because if your arm's extended, you have your hand in the chest of the tackle here, and you can put your right foot in the ground, you can essentially shut the door. So he can stop here. He can force the running back has to make a decision. Am I going to try to go completely vertical right now and get tackled by number 44? Or am I going to bounce, in which case I have outside leverage? But I've dictated terms of confrontation based on how I took on this tackle's block. I defeated the tackle's block by being able to punch with backside hand, punch my hand in his chest. He can't envelop me now. And so I create outside leverage. I can create an edge, and I can create an artificial edge from the sideline. And I also can use the sideline as my friend if he continues to go outside. Quick diagnosis of the play. Now, this is one thing you'd like to see a little bit more from his game. This is an opportunity. Maybe he just is understanding he has to get outside leverage on CJ Stroud, but I would love to see him just bear down and run right through number 3, the running back, and try to make this play early. You'd love to be able to see that and just have that explosive speed right now and the confidence of like, I can get there and I can defeat this block before you can turn your hips around. It's another one of those where he's kind of hesitating on. You're going to see a lot of this, the waggles, the keep passes in the National Football League. How can you diagnose this? And once he saw it, we saw a little bit of a hesitation, leaves that tight end wide open to make the play. You just have to diagnose this a little faster. This is film study, film study, film study, right? And it seems like compared to the rest of these guys, he does a phenomenal job of prepping to understand where his reads are. But even with that said, I think the complexity of these offenses, sometimes it still gets caught up until you get, 2-3 years down the road. You see some of the pro guys, you see a Fred Warner, guys like that. They're just, I mean, they're diagnosing pre-snap. It's so fast. See him in the middle here, downhill, making plays. The guy shoots gaps, and his closing speed is ridiculous, man. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a mock draft guy. I think anybody who had the ability to draft that kid, if maybe you're talking just outside of the top 10, he's one of the most pure linebackers that I've seen. And people say, "Well, this scheme." Listen, man, that guy can play in any scheme you want. I mean, he can. 3-4. You get some big guys in front of him, no problem. 4-3, you got guards coming up, you got double teams coming up on him. He's proven he can take on blocks as well as anybody that I've seen in the last couple of years. So that skill set alone vaults him much higher up on the totem pole than other guys that maybe have similar profiles in college, because this guy does not stick to blocks. He gets off blocks, he attacks blockers, and he makes plays off of blocks all the time. Now, Noah brother Penesu, obviously with the Detroit Lions, off to a fantastic start as a right tackle in his NFL career. 6'1", 246, ran a 4.64. And the story on this guy is just flat out, he can bang, right? Like, you put a running back in front of him, running back goes away real fast. He can bang. He's 6'1". Just picture in your head. 6'1", 246. Compact, strong player, powerful, explosive player. There are some parts to his game. You see him on film. He's a big, thick guy. There's some parts to his game you've got to love. And there's also some parts to his game that make me pause a little bit. You see here on the outside toss, he elects to go behind and try to run down this play. Like, listen, anybody who's played ball knows this is not going to work. See him number one in the middle here on the fullback. Like, you got to cross face right here. You got to make something happen. You cannot go, if you go behind, you're never going to make the play. I know he knows that. I think when you watch this tape again, he's like, I need to cross face. I need to make that running back go back inside. I need to get ahead. I need to get across face of that fullback. I need to press the line. I need to be more physical. There's a couple plays like that we just kind of see where you see this monster guy that you know can hit, and then so every time he doesn't hit, you're like, well, why didn't you hit? You should be more physical in the play. You be more physical in this play. Like your uncle is Isaac Sapopo, like the old defensive tackle for the 49ers. Like, that guy was an absolute monster. Like, I want to see you be super physical all the time, where he's like, no, I'm a linebacker. I'm trying to, skirt around some of these blocks, but you're 6'1.5". You're 246 pounds. Let's like, you're built to hurt people, man. Let's go hurt people. We go through. He's not doing a bad job cutting off here, forcing this cutback. Again, when I look at just looking at his dimensions, I look at this and I go, man, you got to go right through that guard, right? You initiate contact. And this is the difference between him and like maybe a Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell, same foot, same shoulders, that guy with his right shoulder right now, stays square to the line of scrimmage and comes off and makes this play. So you erase the left guard on the B block here. You erase him by getting to contact first, because he's going to either have to hold you or he's going to have to let you go. You already have leverage position. But if you turn your shoulders, if you get on a predetermined track before the running back even has the ball, right? Now it's easy for me to push you out of the way. All I have to do is try to get my head across. I need to initiate contact here a little bit better if I'm him. Maybe I can make that play behind the line of scrimmage. They do a ton of this. He's a good pass rusher, but they do a ton of this playing him up at the line of scrimmage because he's so stout and compact. I actually like this move a lot. He circles back around. He has a little chop club, circles back around and gets in on this play. Now, this is some of the stuff you really got to work on, as opposed to attacking the center here. Like, is the first step, the center's coming up. He checks the left guard's block. He's rising. This is the opportunity for you to go attack with hands, be able to stack and shed. And instead, he gets a little stuck on this block and gets pushed out of the way. Now, the Oregon State offensive line is really good. So let's give credit where credit is due. It's not like he's playing against a bunch of slappies, okay? But this is the kind of expectations you have. Every single player you play in the National Football League is going to be good. You see him over here hipped off. He's coming inside. Now, this is another situation. In my opinion, and I think of a blitzing linebacker, I see Lance Briggs. I see 6'1", 245 pounds. I'm like, dude, that's Lance Briggs. He's coming downhill. Lance Briggs runs over this running back, right? There shouldn't be any hesitation. This guy should go right through him, He should go through the running back's right shoulder instead of taking him down the middle. No hesitation, run right through him. And this has got to be a sack. I know he gets the pressure here, but there's just opportunities where I think he's got the tools and the skill set. Excuse me. He has the tools, but not yet the skill set. So this is something where you can just work on, but you see the explosion, you see the power. This is a play where, again, it kind of gives you pause and you wonder what he's reading through. So he's reading through the uncovered lineman. Maybe he's the center. Again, takes that step and goes up. He's really worried about punching and extending on the center now. But the running back he's lost leverage on the running back. So he could have easily attacked, shed this play, just step two, shed and bounce off. You ricochet off, you get back to your hole and track the backer. But he ends up messing around with the center a little bit too much. And the running back gets downhill away from him. Again, there's opportunities here, because even if right now, you see the centers coming up on you, it looks like the right tackle. I mean, there's just people everywhere. There's just bodies, right? When you attack, you're taking a body or you're taking a hand or two hands off of your defensive tackle. So instead of staying there and absorbing, if you go and be proactive and force the right tackle or force the center to take their hands off and allow that D tackle to be single blocked, you're doing yourself a favor because you're going to be able to punch right through. You see, both those guys aren't ready for confrontation. You can punch them right in the chest. So you're going to be able to stack and shed and be able to strike same foot, same shoulder. And you're going to allow your defensive tackle to be a little bit more aggressive on a single block. So this is why you just want to see a little bit more of that anticipation and that aggressiveness going into contact with these blocks, maybe than what we're seeing on this tape. Like, it's a great tackle, but it's 10 yards down the line. See in the middle here, again, just getting gloved up a little bit by that center instead of being able to attack. Same thing here. You just want to see, as we're watching this tape, like a first round, day two, second round guy playing at a big time school. You diagnose this play, man. You want to be in control. If you're not going to get rid of the center because your coach is telling you, like, hey, I don't want you to give an open lane, like I need you to play this straight, then you got to punch, extend, stay square, but you have to dominate. Hands inside, chest press, hips extend, right? You have to dominate with initial confrontation, because if you let these guys get into your body, if you lose with an outside hand and they win with an inside hand, they outweigh you by, at best 30 pounds. So you really got to win this initial confrontation, stack, shed, not have to go underneath. Kind of see the same thing here. I always respected when I was playing, you respect the guys that refuse to be blocked. So, and then even when I was out, you're watching guys like Luke Kuechly was one of those guys where you just like, that dude refuses to be blocked. John Beeson, when I was playing with him when he was a young guy at Carolina, playing against Patrick Willis. There's so many guys from the old days, but guys that just refused to be, you're not going to block me. There's some guys like Brian Urlacher was one of those guys where something you just block him sometimes. He wasn't, he knew what his bread and butter was. It's like, I can run a 4.4 and I'm this big. I'm just going to run around you. People don't know how to deal with that kind of speed. But if you got in, pads inside, he'd be like, you got me that time. It wasn't just refusing to be blocked. Whereas his running mate, Lance Briggs, was like, no, you're never going to block me. You're not blocking me, right? If you block me, I'm going to put you on your back. And so I always had as an offensive lineman, you always have a ton of respect for the guys who just refuse to be blocked. Oh, nice gesture, pushing him on the ground and letting him back up, though. Solid. And then the last thing here, again, he is dumping the guy. So he gets engaged here and ends up dumping the guy on the ground. But the problem is he got stuck and the running back's out the gate. So the guy's got qualities, but you see that for me, the difference between the two players, obviously there's a size differential and maybe the style of play, but just the ability to shed blocks, anticipate, and read through offensive linemen into the backfield to be able to diagnose running plays in particular a little bit faster and hit those holes. I really like what Jack Campbell did on that tape. I think that they both are good players, but it just always depends on where you get put. But I think Noah Sewell is going to be a good player that maybe needs an ex guy as a coach in the room to really show him the kind of the details. Like, this is how we're going to have this very personal confrontation with these guards, because that's something that I've been in buildings for years now, man, and they don't teach how to take on blocks very well. Like, those drills are very, very remedial. There's a detail and a right way to do things that they don't really spend a lot of time on. So you've got to get with the right development guy to make sure, like, you can't make tackles if you can't get off blocks. It's pretty simple. The guys that are really good at it make a lot more tackles than the guys that aren't, or they don't, and certainly they don't miss as many. So this guy, for a lot of people, is a can't miss prospect. Now he's 6'2", 236 pounds. He runs a 4.43, and what most people are, you look at it and you go, okay, from my experience, I go, okay, that reminds me that sounds like Thomas Davis. Well, Thomas Davis is pretty good. That reminds me of Nick Barnett. Well, Nick Barnett was pretty good. You start going, man, there's some guys that kind of fill out 6'2", 235. To me, that's small, but to the modern day National Football League, like, that's not a small guy. 4-4-3 is athletic as all hell. This guy looks like a safety. He looks like a safety. They'll put him on the line of scrimmage. He plays close to the line of scrimmage. One thing you're going to see with this guy with Clemson, they use him trying to get him to the backfield blitz, work on offensive linemen, work on running backs. That a lot of the stuff, I don't know how much it's going to translate to the National Football League, right? He tips a lot of the stuff he's doing. I don't know if he's tipping it because they don't coach it, or they don't care because he's up there all the time anyways, or they're trying to they're trying to show and go sometimes. But there's some little things where, like, man, if you show me that you're dogging as a linebacker, especially in like an A gap B gap play, you have no chance of beating us, right? There's like very, very, very few humans that at that size, at 6'2", 236, I don't care what you run. If you're in the A gap or the B gap, like, you're going to have a really hard time getting past a guard or a center. So there's that part of the game that he's going to have to either mask better, or, otherwise I don't know how well it's going to translate. But the sheer athleticism, you could see why people are falling in love with him. Again, I always look at it as, we're running so much nickel in the offense, in the defensive coordinator's room right now. And we're playing the field game that 2 years ago was probably more popular than it was last year. But if you're going to play that 4-2 nickel, you need to start finding linebackers that can stop the run with 6 in the box. Your guys have to be able to get off blocks on inside zone, outside zone, just the basic tenets of offensive football right now. Can your guys diagnose, stack and shed, and make plays for less than 4 yards? If they can do that, you got the right guys. If they can't do that, if they're not big enough, if they don't carry enough mass, if they get stuck on blocks, like, that is a real problem. Yes, you can cover. Coverage is super important. Yes, there's things you can do. You don't have to take them out when they put a slot receiver / tight, one of those athletic tight ends in, or you can keep them on if you stay in dime, or there's ways to make these guys super valuable, as opposed to having to like pay for another cornerback or slot guy. But the most important thing that you can do is your base jobbing. And if, like, the guys that are doing that really well, they're going to kind of want to build the defense around you. So, with that said, let's take a look at this guy. He is super athletic. His father is an Army Ranger. So I don't know anything about him, but once you say, like, hey, this dude's dad's an Army Ranger, he did like 17 tours overseas, I'm like, okay, so you could just start thinking, like, if this dude's dad is an Army Ranger, he's probably doing a lot of things the right way, right? Now, I'm making a huge jump there, but I feel very confident that is more than likely true. Just because with a guy with that background, you're not growing up in that household and not making sure you got your stuff together. Okay, he's number 22 here. And of course, they feel very comfortable putting him on a Y or an F tight end. Now, as far as coverage, this guy can run. He does get locked up here by a tight end, and he's just blocked all day long. Now you see, we're just going to show a couple plays with the fluid motion and the speed here. He's the backside of this play, and I mean, he can just this guy can just scoot. He's just comfortable running. Now, this is what we're talking about. He just shows it all the time. And so if I'm an offensive lineman and this guy's triggering all the time, triggering, it's really just, it's not that hard for me to figure out that I need to make that play. Now, this is a play action. They're going to send everybody away, and they're going to run the quick screen out to the side, right? So you see the closing speed. Did he diagnose this play fast enough? I'm not sure. There's obviously a lot of moving parts here, but you see the athleticism. You put him in the middle here again. He triggers early. Problem is, you trigger early with these big guys, and you're 236 pounds. This is kind of what I'm talking about. A lot of this stuff is not going to translate. You're going to get dumped. Gets dumped right here by the center. I think we go to the next play here. Left guard gets him. It's you can't play this game at the line of scrimmage at 236 pounds or 2 yards off the line of scrimmage or 3 yards up without being a master technician when it comes to shedding blocks, right? And I'm bringing this up, and a lot of guys are like, dude, we don't even look at that when we're scouting. Well, it's like, you should, because you give up a lot of yards because you don't. And I'm just telling, again, Coaches don't teach this stuff, man. They'll roll the ball at him. Oh, hey, we did a good job. They'll put the bag up and they'll go across with the Riddell bag, pop, 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 pop. But are you worried about their footwork? Are you worried about their hand play? Like, are we being precise? Are we doing this stuff every day so it's automatic? Are we learning how to stack, rip, and shed? Or we learn how to ricochet off of their backside hand? Like, this is all stuff that if you got it, the difference between the guy who's got it, like the 30% difference in production or 13% or 20% difference in production between the guy who can do that and the guy who's the exact same body, exact same diagnosis, processing speed, and the guy who can't, that's worth for the player. That's probably worth, I don't know, 3-4 million a year. For the team, probably worth a win and a half. I mean, this stuff matters, man. So if I see it on tape that you don't know it, I'm not saying that it's not saying you're not going to be a good pro. I'm saying that you're 236. You're playing up to close to the line of scrimmage. Better figure it out. Like someone's going to have to show him. You see him here hitting the gap, and just I've shown a couple of these today because I'm just surprised, quite frankly, that these guys aren't blowing up these running backs. It's not like these running backs are cutting or going low, right? He ends up getting through there, but I just want to see some violence, up at the line of scrimmage here. This is why guys are going to fall in love with him, and rightfully so, man. Athletically, look at this. Dude's got a 4-yard head start on him. Just chase him down, no problem. Kid is a super athlete, plays hard. There's all three of these guys, I'll say this, and I think you have to do this if you play linebacker. These guys are not taking plays off. They may or may not diagnose it right. They may or may not use the right technique. Okay, but there is no doubt that every snap that I watched, this kid's playing. He's out there to play. He's not trying to hide from anybody. Down the middle again. This is the hard part. You take a guard down the middle, you're wasting the rep, unless your whole purpose in life is not to win and is to free somebody else up, which I don't know what you do with a talent like that. Clemson would have to be crazy to say, I got a 6'2", 235-pound linebacker who runs a 4.43. I think I'm going to run him into a 330-pound guard every time and just have him stalemate. So got to work a little bit. And I know this guy ended up, I think he ended up like 5 or 6 games in a row with at least half a sack. So it's not like he can't get to the quarterback without his athleticism. I'm just saying the stuff that maybe you have to look at in reference to what's an NFL game going to look like. Some of this stuff we need to work on a little bit from a technical standpoint. See him in the middle of the screen here. Another point here. You'd love to see this guy. You see the guard on the ground. The lane is there. Man, go. Don't worry about the right tackle. If you have your back hand extended right now earlier, he doesn't even exist in this kid's world. You know what I mean? It's just, you don't even have to think. Backhand extend, you shoot this gap, you make the play in the backfield, game show's over, right? You get pushed to the side. Now you're going to make a little more severe a cut. You can't track that near hip. You get your head across. He cuts back. Play still made. You still made the play, right? In quotes, because somebody else made the tackle. You could have made the play in the backfield. And that's just, again, a little bit of a football technical thing that we look at it, teachable moment. See him in the middle here. I just put this thing. You see how much respect these guys have. They're running the quarterback draw. They send the entire county over to him, man. They got the running back running at him. They got the 330-pound guard running at him. They're giving him a little bit of love, man. He's definitely somebody you have to plan for. Him and obviously Miles Murphy out there. You see him outside here coming off the edge again. This is the prototypical NFL. I'm just going to punch and read, right? But his hands are outside. And so when this guy wants to release and realizes actually the quarterback's got the ball and he's got to pass, right? He has no options as far as being able to release from this block. And so, again, it's just a technical thing, but it really, really matters when you start thinking about how the NFL is played right now, you cannot get stuck on blocks from offensive linemen. See him out on the edge here. And it's just kind of the same idea. When the tackle steps down, and again, this is all stuff that can be taught. When the tackle takes this, he's going to take the tackle's right foot. He's going to step in, and Miles Murphy's playing defensive tackle right here. So he's going to kind of hinge and then pop back out, hinge, and then pop back out here. If that quarterback is taking the ball out of shotgun at 5 yards, and that dude hinges, you have to get home, period. A tackle cannot hinge and pop back out and block you. It's just, it cannot happen, cannot get pushed by. So this is one of those deals where you have to be more severe with your angle. You have to be able to use your outside hand to pin this guy away from your body so you can release a little bit faster. You can create that separation. Okay. So this again, these are things where athleticism is going to get you, get people very interested in you. And now becoming the real pro is going to be all about how can I hone my technical, how can I up my processing speed, my football intelligence, so that I can play as fast as I am capable of playing, which is probably the highest, athletically, you just think of his ceiling, depending on what you're looking for, his ceiling is as high as there is on this tape. So he's walked up again. Again, I just want to see this guy get absolutely destroyed. You want to see him run right through that running back. And it's just one of those things where it doesn't happen. It didn't happen with Noah Sewell. It didn't happen with Trenton Simpson. And I don't believe I had one of Jack Campbell. I don't know. It'd be fun to kind of look at how he approaches that and see if anybody lands on their backside or he's trying to swim through or he's got a move or two. I love the way I love that Jack Campbell's 6'5", 250, first of all, just because I know it's just arm length alone. I'm going, man, that's really tough to block if you're an offensive lineman. Because you got to remember, offensive linemen, they're usually coming off a double team. So they're most of you guys that don't play with good hip level, right? So once they hit that double team, they're already tall. So they're entering into contact tall. And it's like, if my chest is up and I'm playing against a 6'5", 250-pound linebacker, all of a sudden, that dude can stack and shed away from me easy. Like he can extend his arms on my chest easy because I'm showing upper body. You saw the other guys get stuck a little bit on those players. Now, there's qualities that go beyond obviously how you play in the blocks, the pass coverage, and how you drop and everything, whether you're going to play zone or man, what your defensive philosophy is. Can you take away a tight end, et cetera, right? All that stuff is super important. I think right now in the National Football League, as I continue to watch tape and you see what's going on, the pendulum's going to swing back here pretty soon. And it's not going to be okay to be just marching down the field all the time, running this nickel defense with 6 in the box and guys are just running free and crazy. You're going to have to start finding guys that can stop the run with minimum people in the box. So it becomes like, I have to be able to defeat my guy. It's not enough that I'm just like taking my gap and maybe I get pushed out because I'm only 230 pounds. Like I need to come downhill, stack and shed that block. I need to make the running back make a decision earlier than he wants to. I have to be able to play on both sides of the line of scrimmage. I need to be able to blitz. I need to be able to. So all of these guys have demonstrated that they can tackle in space, that they can play on either side of the line of scrimmage. Noah Sewell and Trenton Simpson in particular spend a lot of time lining up at the line of scrimmage. Okay, so they have that ability already. Whether or not it translates perfectly to the National Football League with the quality blockers that they have, I'm not sure. But it's exciting to think about. I think when you're projecting what they would do in your defense. I'm a Patrick Willis guy. I'm a Jeremiah Trotter guy. I'm a Luke Kuechly guy. I love those kind of players. Like I like the physical John Beeson's. I love the downhill, man. I'm gonna put it on you, and I think that Jack Campbell could actually get, he size out, but he could be a 260-pound player if he wanted to be. He could probably gain 20 pounds and put his hand in the dirt. Noah Sewell, 6'1", 246. The power. I mean, you just think about that. That is a compact human being that is going to be super, super explosive when he decides to be. And it's just a question of like, do you get the right guy in front of him that says, this is how I want you to play? I want you to punish guards. I want you to punish running backs. Like we're gonna make this game less about you, going down to the left tackle and trying to pass rush, and more about you hitting the gaps as fast as you can and just taking over ball games with your downhill speed. And then I think the cool thing when you think about Trenton Simpson is he runs like a safety. He looks like a safety. Like he's a incredibly well-built 6'2", 235-pound dude who runs a 4.3. Like the options are limitless. It's just, there's always this question of, are you going to use him in the way that's going to develop that player in the best manner possible for him? Or are you going to go, well, he's so athletic, we can do this and we can do that, and he becomes a jack of all trades and a master of none. And so that's always like when I look at it, just because of the time that it takes to coach a kid and develop a kid into becoming an elite level player, are you going to overload him because of his athletic ability? Like you kind of saw in the Clemson game. It's like, why are we putting him up against guards all the time? Just because you think he can? Or he clearly, that's not his comfort level. So you don't want to get in a situation like that. If you're Trenton Simpson, you don't want to get in a situation where like, hey man, we're going to use you all over the field. We're going to let you do this. We're going to let you walk up and rush the A gap. It's like, no, teach me how to play linebacker like an all pro. That's what you hope for him. If I'm his family, I'm hoping, I hope he gets drafted to a place where like, you're going to play off the ball. You're going to be our guy. When we're in nickel, dime, we're in a 41, 42 defense, you're our guy. And we're going to put you in the middle. You're going to make the calls. You're going to know all the coverages. We're going to teach you how to watch tape, and we're going to teach you how to play instinctively, man. You're going to read them. You're going to be the best reading back guy in the league because athletically, you've got what it takes. Your dad's an Army Ranger. Hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Block party, as is this pre-draft stuff. I'm not a big draft guy, but I love watching. On the other hand, I do love watching these kids play football. So, love talking about it. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit that like button on the Process to Perform page on YouTube. Follow me, MikeWall68 on Twitter and TikTok. Process to Perform on Instagram. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you next week.